I'm Linda. Welcome back. Today I just finished up another fall painting I'm calling Misty Morning. It's a beautiful fall tree with lots of leaves, and in the distance there's a little fog creeping up. Lots of bright colors. I know you're going to love painting this one. I'll show you step by step. Stream me on my Facebook page. Click on this video I'll be posting, and I'll show you every step of the way. So get your paint, get your palette, and let's get started. And here are the acrylic and oil paints I used. Acrylics, black and phthalo blue. Oils were liquid clear, black, titanium white, Van Dyke brown, alizarin crimson, orange, yellow ochre, cad yellow, and red. Okay, I've got a 16 by 20, perfectly dry. I took some black acrylic and got a little round brush here, and what I did was I just tapped in my black and I just made all this on the top like trees, tree boughs and little leaves. Made it very dark on the very top, and then a little bit halfway below the halfway mark I did a where the land starts. Okay, and then I just went all the way down. After that I took a little filbert and I drew in some trees. Just carefully drew in some trees, and I used a little liner brush to do my thinner ones, my branches. And then I went back and I just lightly touched and made some distant leaves way in the back. This is just the background. And then I also took phthalo blue, a very, very small amount, and I just went in the middle here. I've got a little bit of blue sky right here. And then I've let this totally dry, which takes about a half an hour. And so now I'm going to take some liquid clear oil. This one's made by the Bob Ross company. Anyway, so now I'm going to go over the top of this with liquid clear. And this is totally dry, so this will go on very nicely. Just liquid clear. And afterwards I'm going to go back and after I get this all on, and take a shop rag, a blue shop towel, and just take off a little bit of the excess. Go all the way down. You don't need a lot of this. It's just enough to help the paint move when I put the next layer of paint on. It also gives a nice sheen. Okay, I've got it all on there. Now I'm going to take a shop rag, a little shop towel, a little blue shop towel. I'm just going to gently take a little bit off. See? Just take that excess oil off. Because if you have too much on, it causes it to run. I don't want that. So I just go all the way down and take as much of the excess off as you can. And there, then we'll go on to the next step. So now I'm dipping in a little bit of titanium white, and I'm brushing back and forth, just blending. I'm going to create a base for a little foggy area and some blending with some yellows. So I'm just tapping in. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom where the land starts, brushing across those trees. and up into the top there a little bit, but I'm gonna go right down to the base where the grassy the land starts. Maybe just a little bit low below, because I want to create a kind of a hazy, foggy, sunny area right there. So I'm just brushing back and forth, and I'm taking a little extra white. I'm going to take out a little bit of that blue, but I can always add blue in the end with some blue oil, phthalo blue if you need it. So now I am tapping into my cad yellow with a little bit of white, and back and forth motions, touch of yellow ochre. I'm going to make it a little bit darker there, and just going to work my way up, and as I go up it's going to be lighter, right up underneath those tree boughs and into the tree limbs there. A little more yellow ochre there, making it a little darker I think on that side. But after I get all the yellows in here, I'll take a shop rag and just gently take off a little bit of that excess oil. So until then, I'm just going to keep brushing it in, all the little open areas where the sun is going to come through. Probably a little darker on the bottom side, and as you go up it'll be lighter. I'm not going into the blue much, I'm just kind of going around it. And I'll cross over into the center. The yellow and white there. It's quite bright and light down there, so I don't want it real dark yellow in the center. Just going to blend that in really nice, adding a little bit of white because it is very bright down there. Dabbing my excess out of my brush, using the same brush too, you don't have to clean it every time. Now I'll take my shop towel and just take a little bit of that excess off. I did brush a little bit of yellow down below into the landscape there, just a little bit. Sunlight will touch in certain areas, so it's good background. I'm just laying the background. Now I will take a shop towel, and you'll see I'm just gently just taking a little bit of that excess oil off. I don't want it super yellow there, but more so on the bottom. It's going to be trees covering that anyway, but I do want some of that yellow to peek through. Just kind of fading that gently in, leaving the trees, some of that covered, because I want it to look like a little misty fog down there. Now I'm going into my alizarin crimson and a touch of brown, because I want a real dark, I have a dark cranberry. And I've got a round brush, I'm just going to start tapping the top of that. If you have too much on your brush, tap it into a paper towel. But I'm just going to blend it in till it just touches the light area in the yellow there. I'm not going to go all the way down. I'm just going to concentrate on that top area. It's going to be really dark on top. And so I'm just tapping it in, setting up for where my big tree is. That big, could be a maple, could be an oak, I don't know, but it's it's going to really be right up there. So just want to get that crimson background there. And just keep tapping away. Kind of leaving a couple of open areas there where the sunlight's going to come through. And I go all the way partially down the side, and same with the other side. Kind of a little canopy, a dark canopy of darker leaves up there. Leaving some of those holes, but really making it fairly dark. And I'm tapping into some yellow ochre and some yellow, touch of brown. I'm just going to make in and put in some little leaves on the top of the little brushy area there. Just tapping in lightly. That little brown and yellow ochre. Just for background. I dipped it in a little bit of red, same brush. Give it a little variety of bushes. Just tapping, lots of tiny leaves down there in that brush. Making little individual bushes. Tapped in a little orange and yellow. And you can still use the same brush. You don't have to wash it out every time. I'm going to do the other side. Doesn't have to be exactly the same. Push it in a little red and orange. There's some orange with a touch of yellow and white. Just tapping, getting some of that color in the brush, and just forming some little bushes there. Little individual bushes. I'm going to have a tree on that side, so it's going to go up a little bit. Some of the leaves are going to be really close to that big tree, so I want to make sure those are in there. That's the orange and yellow and a little bit touch of white. So now I'm going up toward the top. I'm doing a little crimson and red. Those are in crimson and red. There's a tree in the background there. I'm going in my orange and red. Just dotting tops of trees there. So now I'm going into a Van Dyke brown, a little bit of black, and I'm going just below that, the sunlight there where the land is. I'm not going to cover that sunlight up. I'm just making, a little ground there, just to give it a little depth. Very light in the middle, in the center, a little darker on the sides and the edges. But working my way forward, just putting some groundwork in. I'm lifting up a little bit too, creating some little sticks and things in the background, real light. And zigzagging around, just creating some groundwork for the leaves. There's going to be a ton of leaves on that area, so I do want to have some dark areas in there. I don't want it to look flat, you know. More realistic. Just lifting it up and just squiggling it around. I'm going to figure out where I'm going to put my tree here in a second, but I'm going to work some of that brown yet in the grassy area. Squiggling doesn't have to be perfect. You can always add dark in there later if you have some too light areas. You can make up for that. So I'm going into black and brown. I'm going to outline my big tree, and I'm below the halfway mark. Actually, it's halfway from the horizon line there, the grass line, and to bottom of the canvas, about halfway down from there. I'm just got a liner brush, and I'm just gently going to etch in this tree. I'm not going to get crazy with a big brush on this one. I want to make sure it's nice and straight, and it goes pretty far up there. But I'm just carefully lining this tree in. Almost to the top there. I'm forming a little trunk there. Doesn't have to be perfect right now. I'm just etching it in. I'm going to etch in my branches with the liner. Probably after a while I'll take a nice filbert and I'll make them a little bit thicker, but not right now. I just want to get those branches in. I want to see where they're at and make sure I get enough of them in there. There, I've added some branches, thickened them up a little bit, and just adding some more limbs, tree limbs, squiggling them down, just make a nice edge on that liner brush. Your paint can't be real thick on this. You have to add a little bit of thinner, so like not quite ink light like, but it's thin enough where you can draw a really nice crisp line. And then I kind of pull out with my fingers, twirl it as I'm working my way up, and that's the way I get a nice point. So now I'm back into my crimson and a little bit of black, because I'm doing some background work here for the leaves that are going on this tree, and I want a lot of dark areas in there. So I have like a shadow effect underneath the leaves that will be hanging on that tree. So I'm just tapping in where I'm going to have the leaves, give it some background color. And so now I've got my handy dandy little sea sponge that I've cut into different shapes. I have this one it's a really nice one for just tapping in individual clusters of leaves at one time. It is time consuming, but it's so pretty in the end. I did shorten the video up just a little bit, so it's not too boring, but you'll get the idea here, where I'm forming my tops of my trees, and I'm going into bright red. That one is a little bit different, that little spongy. I've got 3 or 4 of my favorites, but then I can switch off into different colors, and then I don't have to clean them every time. But I'm just tapping in pretty little clusters of leaves. I'm not afraid to leave some dark areas there, because that gives it some depth, and it really makes it look more realistic. So I'm just tapping away, carefully, leaving in the dark areas, just getting in all the red ones here. Then I'll switch over to a different color, just doing the base work here. Kind of working my way down, following the branches. And by twisting your wrist, if you're using one of these, you can get some really, really neat shapes of leaves. So now I'm tapping into some red. Actually, it's crimson, dark crimson, and a little darker brown. So I'm going to start putting some leaves on the very bottom of the canvas. Starting off with the dark leaves first. I'm just going to put them sporadically all around on the bottom. Doesn't have to be in a straight line. Make sure they're no two are the same. You want to keep twisting your wrist because you want them to look real. That's my goal. I like the realistic look. I'm working my way up with the alizarin crimson with a touch of orange, just a little bit poured up there, not quite to the top, but just twisting in some little leaves, touching that sponge in, a little touch of yellow here and there. Just work one area at a time. Just fill it in there. Now I'm going into straight red. I'm going to go back up to the tree and put in a few highlights, bright red highlights. You can add a little, I'll be adding a little orange to that in just a few minutes here, but I want to get these bright red ones in there and shaping that tree. Okay, now I'm dipping in my orange and yellow. I'm highlighting just the tops. Just forming those little clusters. Leaving some dark areas. Because there is a shadow effect kind of on the top there. I'm going to leave some of that dark. But I've got to curve my leafy branches a little bit better, and I will toward the end here. I'll shape it a little better. But you see how I'm just putting that orange here and there. Orange and yellow. Now I'm going more yellow on the far right side. Just shaping my clusters of leaves. Just here and there. It doesn't have to be, no two are the same. You don't want to have straight lines. You want to make sure your wrist is constantly turning a little bit because you don't want it to be exactly the same. Highlighting that tree. And you can do as much as you want. I'm going way in the top with some really bright orange and yellow. Filling in here and there, open areas. Now I'm going to go back down to the bottom there and finish off my leaves. I'm adding some yellow, straight yellow, just tapping in the back there, that little area in the center there, kind of a triangular actually after I get done. That is going to be the brightest yellow area that I've got, that's going to be there. The sun is hitting that area the most. So I'm gonna highlight that area with lots of yellow ones. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be fussy right now. You can we're gonna be changing a lot of that in a minute here, but I just want to get that color down. Now I'm adding some oranges in there, straight orange. I'm going to go all the way across there. I've done the whole thing there. I'm going to continue to add reds and oranges. Leave some of those dark areas dark. I'm putting a little bit of black in the back, way in the back, just a little bit. Creating a few extra dark holes in that area where the leaves are. There I'm accentuating some of the black areas, putting in a little more black. I'm going to doctor up my tree a little bit, bring his trunk down. And maybe even add a few little grassies on the right side there, but I'm just kind of fixing that trunk so it's a little more visible. And with straight black and a little filbert, I'm just putting in some dark areas, just here and there, flattening out some of those real round leaves. Now I've got some yellow and white. I'm going to add a few more yellow leaves here and there, just here and there, just tiny little dots. Boy, I almost see a finished painting here. I really love doing this one, and I sure hope you do too. So until next time, happy painting, and God bless.